we doing today, boys and girls? This is Courier-Six coming at you from the Mojave Waste, and as you can see, I have recently relocated. I got a promotion at my job, and that means I have relocated to sunny Arizona, the land of the free, at least compared to the Mojave I previously lived in. A little bit of an update. I haven't really been posting as much recently because I am still kind of dealing with all the stuff that's happened in my life recently. I am still trying to get my affairs in order here, so when it comes to filming, it's going to take a little while. I obviously need a haircut, but again, when you move, that tends to eat into your finances quite a bit. But today, I was re-watching a video that I saw yesterday from Garrett, 11 Bang Bang, and I figured I would go ahead and do my own take on that video of his, and it is the guns that will stick with me for the rest of my life. And he talks about how there's only a few that he has found recently. He hasn't quite found the lever action yet that he'll keep. He hasn't quite found the, he talks about the guns that'll stick with him that he'll never sell. And in this case, I decided it would be a fun idea for me to go through the pistols that, well, just the guns in general, that I will probably never sell. And there is a Wildcard here. And I decided I was going to try and cover just about every spectrum that there is for the firearms community. So, without any further ado, without any further delay, let's get into it. Starting off, I will go ahead and get started with the first semi-automatic pistol I own that I will probably never get rid of in this lifetime. This is a second-year production Smith & Wesson Model 539. Granted, it is a second generation, not a first generation, but it is basically cherry as they come. It came in the original box with two 8-round magazines, and this is my personal, now that I'm in Arizona where lawful carry, just so that you know it is empty. Now that I live in Arizona where lawful carry, constitutional carry, that's the term I was looking for, is legal compared to California where it has to be roster compliant with the magazine disconnect. It has to have all these, like a loaded chamber indicator to be qualified for a concealed carry license. I could just walk around with this on my hip. It is probably the most accurate 9mm I own and probably the most reliable. As I stated, it's 8 rounds in a magazine, which is a little bit limited for 9mm, but for the reliability of this pistol, for the accuracy of it, this is the pistol I shoot the best overall in my entire collection, and it just feels great in my hand. It feels good, so that's why it'll probably stick with me. That, and it's just kind of a unique little piece in my collection where in California owning something like this was a bit of a status symbol because it is off roster. So that's the semi-automatic pistol I own that I'll probably never get rid of. When it comes to revolvers, I actually had a bit of an uphill battle with this. I own quite a number of single actions and double actions. First I was going to go with, let me see if I can reach it on camera here without disrupting things too much. Originally, my idea was to go with this. This is my second or third year production Ruger new model Blackhawk in 357 Magnum, and she is just, again, pristine. You can hear that action. It's just like it left the factory yesterday, despite being manufactured more than 40 years ago. And again, for all those safety nuts out there, she is unloaded. Now, this is the one that I was originally going to go with, and granted, I did replace the grips on it because I've never been a big fan of the Ruger factory grips, but these I just kind of bought because in order to get the free shipping on the pair I actually wanted, you needed a second pair, and these happen to fit both this one and the 45 long Colt I own. So, the revolver I decided finally that I would never get rid of is this. This is my Ruger Blackhawk flat top. It is in 44 Special from LUFS. You can just hear how smooth and how wonderful that action is. This is a Bisley frame. Basically, this is the same type of Blackhawk that Elmer Keith would have probably had. This is pretty much Ruger and Lipsey's trying to replicate Revolver number 5. You can even see there they kind of tried to do a fixed, a locked-in barrel pin like Elmer Keith had. Granted, his worked on a latch, but this one uses a Allen wrench. And again, no shells, no brass, nothing in there. So this is the one that I will never sell, just because to me, this is the smoothest revolver I own. This has the lightest trigger pull I own. And that hammer, the Bisley frame, it just puts my thumb right on the hammer spur. So this is the revolver I will never get rid of. It was a gift from my grandfather, and I cherish it dearly. Regarding lever actions and shotguns, unfortunately my example is not here. The example of the shotgun and revolver that I swore I would never get rid of, and I still have it, it's just out for a repair at the moment, is an 1887 shotgun. Anyone of my generation who grew up watching like Terminator 2 on VHS knows what I'm talking about. And the fact that I was able to get one of the first Cimarron 1887s off the production line at my local gun store blew me away. The fact that it was only like $600, $500, I can't really remember because I think I got a rebate with it through my gun store. But the fact that it was a gun that's been on the top of my bucket list basically since I was 8 years old when I first watched Terminator 2. The only reason it's out for repair, and I did write a review on this for Single Shot Exchange, it should be coming out in a month or two. The only reason it's back for repairs is because the thread they use, or either the threading or the screw they use to secure the stock in place is a little too short, kind of like what you get with a lot of scope mounts for the Ruger 1022. And when it came to that stock screw, it didn't engage all of the threads, and over heavy recoil of about 200 rounds of slugs, buckshot, and birdshot, it stripped out the receiver threads. So it's on its way to Texas to the Cimarron gunsmith to get repaired there. And to be fair, I won't really blame Cimarron for that. They don't feature a lot of language in their manual in regards to what ammunition should be fed through their gun. But still, it did have a critical parts failure with less than 200 rounds through it. So, but that's one I'll probably never sell, just because to me, the gun itself is worth more than resale, because at this point, you cannot, outside of Cimarron, find an 1887 that works and is reliable, like, for less than $1,000. Most of the Chinese copies that you had before were extremely unreliable or just flat out would not work. Like, a lot of the reviews I saw in the past had light hammer strikes, or light primer strikes, I should say. And the, I just got off work and I'm cooking my dinner here, so I'm kind of juggling things. That's why I'm a bit scattershot at the moment. But when it comes to this shotgun, it's just one of those things where, to me, there are flaws in it, don't get me wrong, but the price and the fact that it's something I've wanted since I was a kid is one of the reasons I will never get rid of it regardless. Someone could walk up to me and offer me $1,000, I wouldn't sell it. So, when it comes to rimfires, there's a lot of rimfires I own in my collection currently, but the one that I will never get rid of, anyone who's played Red Dead Redemption will recognize this immediately. This is the basis of the varmint rifle, or at least what is descended from the original version of the varmint rifle. This is a Winchester Model 62A, and this was a gift from a friend who saw that I had the new Taurus gallery gun, or the Rossi gallery gun, the one that's made out of basically cast pot metal. I wanted a pump action 22, and he saw that I had that, and he couldn't abide that, so he dug out one of the gallery guns and he had it in his safe, and he offered it to me, like, just as a friend, because of all the favors I'd done for him over the years, everything. It's basically in cherry condition. There is some surface rust on the barrel, but for how abused these rifles were, and as Eric from Iraq Veteran 8888 often said, it is a borderline impossible feat to find any of these gallery guns with any matching parts or matching serial numbers, and this thing is full matching for the upper, the tang, everything. Any serialized part on this matches, and to find one in this good a condition, original, with no refinishing, and in all matching condition, is just something that's worth way more to me than I could ever sell it for, because these things are, despite being prized, really common. It is hard to find them in matching number form, but outside of that, you could go to the South and find these all over the place. Like, I found these in barns all across Kentucky. So that is my Rimfire out of the way. Now, what would I not get rid of when it came to centerfire? And for that, this is a big boy. This is a Winchester 1885 high wall, chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. This is one of those guns that, in my review of it that I just wrote for Single Shot, I describe as being the gun you do not know you need until you walk into your gun store and find it. And I got a screaming deal on this rifle. It's currently discontinued from the Winchester factory. It is listed on their website as an MSRP of almost $2,000 for this deluxe checkered model, and I got it for $1,000 out the door. And the reason that would be the absolute last centerfire rifle, like manually operated centerfire rifle that I would ever get rid of, is because as much as I love some of my bolt actions, some of my lever actions, as much as I love like some of the weird stuff I have, that is probably the rifle I own with the most soul to it, because it is so unique. It is a old school buffalo rifle chambered in what is one of the more modern target cartridges in 6.5 Creedmoor. And so that's why I would just never get rid of it, and the fact that it is just something that you won't find all the time walking into a gun store. Like, I can walk into just about any gun store today and pick up a Ruger Blackhawk in 357. These things, especially during the pandemic in my local region of the Mojave, sold like fireworks. Like, they sold like fireworks on the 4th of July, that's what I'm trying to say. And the rifle that I will never get rid of that's semi-automatic, and I got this was my first purchase when I moved to Arizona. This is basically as close to a reproduction as I would want to get to the rifle I carried in basic training. It is a Delton. I went to the local used gun store. I went to a pawn shop, and I asked to look at their old school, their retro AR lines that they had. And this one, it's a arrow lower set on a Delton upper. It is a 20-inch barrel. Like, the scope I added on, this is an old Bear Cub scope. It's a 2-power fixed zoom, and it's just a great option for close and a little bit further distance shooting with a AR. I also keep it, because this is now my home defense gun, loaded with a 20-round Pro Mag, or Mag Pro magazine, polymer mag. And the reason this was the first one I picked up is because ever since I left the U.S. Army, I've wanted a rifle that kind of replicated the M16A2 that I carried in basic without the carrying handle. I do have the carrying handle to complete the look when it's up in storage, but since this is a bit more of a practical rifle for me at the moment, I mean, hell, I managed to work a deal where I got like 15 30-round magazines for $40 because they were used. So yeah, this was the first major purchase I made after moving, and I think I got it for like $500 out the door, which kind of blew me away, because I'm used to the 10-day waiting periods, the 1 in 30-day rule, that sort of stuff. And then when it comes to the wild card of this video, this is kind of one of those where, unless you really know about my past, unless you've seen my old knife review videos, you wouldn't know that Courier-Six originally started as Iron Wings 3187. Now, Iron Wings 3187 name was originally from the unit I served with in the U.S. Army. I was in 3rd Brigade, 187th Infantry, Hotel Company of the 101st Airborne, the Iron Rockasons. And one of the cool little stories of my life is that when I was going to college up in Humboldt State in Northern California, I got a little bit of a bonus from my college for financial aid paid out to me, about $200, and I went to my local outdoor store up there, a little chain shop called the Great Outdoors, something like that. I can't remember exactly, or Pacific Outdoors, I think. I think they're still around to this day. Anyway, what I was saying, I went to my local outdoor store, I think it was Pacific Outdoors, something like that, in Arcata, California. And I want to say this was 2 years after I was discharged from the Army. I was just looking for a knife to go backpacking with. Well, technically I originally went in there looking for a pocket knife. I was at the time carrying a CRKT Fulcrum, and it was a neat novelty, but it felt like it was wobbling up, and it's one of those where it doesn't have an easy way to improve the torsion or the tension of the blade itself. So I was looking for something that would be a little bit easier to carry and work on, maintain. I walked in there. I didn't walk out with a pocket knife, but I did walk out with a CRKT Clever Girl, and you can see a review for it down in my YouTube channel on my old videos. And this knife, before I became Courier-Six, was one of the knives I went out on my way to go and find, even though it's been discontinued for about 5 years from CRKT. What made the Clever Girl and this, the CRKT Rockason, it's mirrored there, but unfortunately you can see there, what made this so special to me and seeking these out is because by some twist of fate, something like out there, and I've talked about this in my Clever Girl review, by some unique twist of fate out there in the universe or some higher power, I walked into a sportsman's warehouse, basically, or a sportsman's outdoor store, and a sporting goods store, I should say. I walked into a sporting goods store in rural Nowheresville, backwater Northern California, surrounded by redwoods, where the only population is either farmers or the hipsters that go to the local college. I was in this area, walk into a Nowheresville sporting goods store, and I walk out with a knife, the Clever Girl, that was made by someone who served in the same unit as I did, at least when it comes to the 3rd Brigade 100, he was in 3rd Brigade Austin McGlon. And it was just one of those things where I had, at the time of purchase, no concept, no clue. I didn't have any idea that he made this or what his background was. I just bought the Clever Girl because I liked the design and I thought it would be good for skinning or outdooring. And then I learned that he was a Rockason. So I went onto Facebook and messaged him directly, and I told him this story, and he thought it was amusing too. I went ahead and asked him if he had any old Rockason stock that he would be willing to sell me, because it had been discontinued earlier that year. And he sent me over to the CRKT Underground, where a man named Kirk Gowdy kindly sold it to me. And since then, I have been the proud owner of this Rockason. You can see it doesn't see a lot of wear, because this is probably one of my most prized possessions, and something that I will never sell so long as I live, because the story behind it is so unique and so cool to me that it's something I could never justify selling to me. Despite it increasing in value since I bought it, despite the fact that it is arguably an impractical knife for my purposes, my day-to-day use, it's just the connection behind this and the deeper coincidence or fate behind it and its maker and I, it's just too, I would almost say mythic for me to pass up. This is the lore that you tell your grandkids, and they just think it's so cool. So this is kind of the wild card. This is a dagger. This is a knife that I will never sell so long as I live, and I'm sorry, this is something that is on display proudly in my home on the bookshelf that's back behind me. The rest of these are usually kept up in the safe, but this I will openly keep out in my house just on display because it's something I like looking at that much, and I love remembering the story behind this piece and the clever girl. So, with that, I appreciate your time in listening to my first full Courier-Six video. Even if it isn't a themed video, even if it isn't an out in the Mojave shooting video like I had originally wanted, the concept of 11 Bang Bangs video of guns that will stay with me, weapons that'll stay with me, was just too good for me not to pass up and make my own spin on, to kind of collaborate with him. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the kind of passion I have for these particular items that are in my collection. I do understand that some of them may not have come up as too passionate, but I kind of worked my way up to what is probably the prized collection piece in my weaponry, my arsenal. So this has been Courier-Six. Remember to stay cool out there and avoid that Nuka-Cola Quantum.